What is going on, everyone? I am SSG, Sergeant Sentinel, along with my co-host, BMG, and our guest, Ains. Welcome to another episode of PSN Party Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Before we do begin discussing the topics, I would like to thank our guest, Ains, for coming on. Thank you so much. This is the first time that you've been on our podcast. We greatly appreciate it. What have you been playing this week as far as video games go?
Yeah, thank you guys, man. Good to be here. Want to quickly say apologize again for last week. You know how life does to you sometimes. So planned to be on last week, and something with work, my career work came up that I couldn't avoid. So sorry about that again.
Completely understandable. That's okay.
But yeah, good to be here. I right now, actually, guys, I'm playing a lot of, I'm always playing a lot of Halo. I think anyone who follows me knows I play a lot of Halo competitive. But I'm playing a lot of Hogwarts Legacy, to be honest with you. I got the code to review it, but the codes came in really late for that game, for the smaller outlets. And so it's a lot bigger game than I think many of us imagined it would be. So I'm trying to push through that right now. And then I also started playing the demo of Wild Hearts, which is that new game from EA that's supposed to compete with Monster Hunter. I've never been a big fan of Monster Hunter, but I figured I'd give it a shot. So,
Okay.
But I would say 95% of my time right now is going towards Halo and Hogwarts.
Nice. BMG, what have you been playing?
Well, the same thing I play every single day is the Game of the Year for the Game Awards and Game of the Year for the XBN Network, Marvel Snap. It's just so addictive. It's so addictive. It's so awesome. And why, we need a show dedicated to it. I'm sure I can convince the others to do
Yeah,
so. It's just so much fun.
I'm surprised our channel isn't sponsored by Marvel Snap already with as much as you pitch it every week.
It is just, mobile games has never really been my thing, apart from, the odd game of chess or something like that. Something easy, simple, not much thought into it. But Marvel Snap's just got its big old Marvel claws into me, and it's just nobody will play me. I'm gutted. Nobody will play against me. I've got that friend code sat there, and nobody wants to play. I think they're all worried, scared, because I'm like level 1,270 something now. So,
Boy.
Might be a little intimidated. Yeah.
I've got a long way to go, because it's like every time they restart a season, which they did a couple of days ago, they knock you back right down in level for your your rank. You've got like your iron, your bronze, and then you get to like Omega and crazy things like that. And so I need to build my way back up and, trying to get in there, get some playing in. And then you level up you got your actual level for you. And as you go up, you get things like a bit like a free loot box type thing. And that loot box will like give you a new card or a variant, or it'll give you more credits or gold or shards once you get to a level 1,000. I think 1,000? Yeah, it's 1,000. So you can unlock more cards. But the good thing about it is you're not being pushed to spend money. I've spent money once, because when I first started, you got the Captain America pack, and it was like £2.49, something like that. So I picked that up because it's got a bit of money, a bit of gold, and you got Captain America to start off with, which was good. But I've not spent a penny since, and I've had no issues competing. You can't pay to win or anything like that, and it's free to download. Everyone get on it. It's so much fun.
Nice.
and it's too addictive. I should really stop, but I can't. It's just always there in my hand. But other than that, I've just finished The Outer Worlds. I remember starting it a long time ago, and I just didn't quite grasp with it. I don't know what it was. I just started it just to get murdering people, which kind of changed the story a bit, which is quite cool. But then I got bored of it, so we took a bit of time off with personal stuff going on and that. So on the evenings where I had time, I thought, you know what, let's re-jump into Outer Worlds, jump back into it. It was a fun game. It's strange that you can have a game where, you go to like first town you come to, and this mob boss type guy wants you to go and divert power from one place to another, And you could do that, do what he wants, get loads of XP, increase your reputation. Or you could say, yeah, I'll go and do that. But then you could just murder him on the spot, which kind of changes the story. And it's like, murdering everyone.
So I'm sure if there's going to be any type of achievement for murdering like 10,000 people in the Outer Worlds too, that you'll probably unlock it. You seem pretty happy with that ability to just run around killing people.
It was just fun. It was like, because some characters really, really annoyed me, and in like some games you get such an annoying character and there's nothing you can do about it. But in this game, apart from your companions, I didn't try to kill my companions actually. I didn't think of that one. You could just like murder everyone. It was just like fun, and it was just like, went to this town, diverted this power. She's like, well, maybe you could like help me, and I talk him down. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. And then I just thought, something, it'd just be more fun just to murder the whole town. Why go to the trouble, steal all your stuff, go back there, and then killed all them as well. Oh, it's just fun. And a couple of twists and turns. I was disappointed with the ending. The ending was a bit lackluster because you're just getting stills for about 2 minutes a piece, and while it talks you through everything you did and what happened afterwards. And it's like, I understand that obviously when they were doing that game, they were independent, they weren't part of Microsoft. So obviously budgets were lower. So for what they did as an independent studio, good game, really, really good. I wouldn't want to go back and replay it. But I am looking forward to the second one. So that I'm looking forward to. And other than that, I jumped back into a bit of Spider-Man because I need to finish the DLCs. It's, it's like trying to get myself ready for the Spider-Man 2 coming out this year. As scheduled this year for fall this year. And they're sort of talking about how it's going to have a darker tone, which I'm actually looking forward to because Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, sorry, I played it on the PlayStation 4, finished it on there. I picked it up on the PlayStation 5 with Miles Morales because I wanted the remastered version, which was really, really good. Amazing detail. If anyone's yet to play it, highly recommend playing it in performance ray trace mode. It just looks absolutely stunning and beautiful. So I've done the story. It's quite light-hearted most of the way through till you get towards like the end of it, where it gets a bit more like on an emotional side. Obviously I'm not going to spoil the game if anyone hasn't played it, but there's like a particular scene towards the end that affects Peter Parker and and his mentor and stuff. But it's such a good game. I've just got the DLCs to touch on because I got them included, and that will get me set up ready for Spider-Man 2, which I'm more looking forward to.
Nice, very nice.
I everyone played Marvel Snap.
Play Marvel Snap, got it. I'm pretty much doing the same thing I usually do every single week. I'm playing House Flipper. For those of you that haven't checked out House Flipper, obviously check it out if you like those DIY shows where people are renovating houses and remodeling bathrooms and stuff. I definitely recommend checking out House Flipper. For console right now, they have 3 DLCs available. There's the Garden Flipper, where you can completely redo the outside of your house, as far as giving yourself like the Japanese flower garden, or if you want edibles like tomato plants and stuff like that, you can completely deck out the outside of your house. And of course, with the luxury DLC, it has a lot more luxurious options. With each of these DLCs, obviously, it has more jobs. The one that just came out, and I couldn't believe it because the luxury DLC just came out like maybe 2 weeks ago, is the Pets DLC, where you can actually now have pets inside your houses and have the little cat towers and all that other stuff. It's really cool. So anyone who likes these types of games, I definitely recommend picking it up. I haven't picked up Pets because I just picked up luxury DLC, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But I mean, I appreciate them releasing these DLCs. There's still the HGTV DLC. HGTV has the has shows based around house flipping and stuff like that. So they have a DLC set on that. I can't wait till that one comes out as well. But that's usually what I live stream. Other than that, I have been, much to my embarrassment, I've been live streaming Far Cry New Dawn. I know I harp on that all the time, complain about its RPG elements, but I have been playing that. So yeah, I will have to do a walk of shame later because of that. But those are the 2 games that I have been playing. pretty much this week. And before we get into our topics, I do want to thank everybody that's in the chat. Thank you so much for checking us out. And a lot of times people will listen to this podcast later on. For those of you that are listening to it later on, obviously, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate your help. Thimber, every single week you're here. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, obviously. And of course, for anyone else listening later on, thank you for listening. We greatly appreciate it. For this week's first topic, and it's obviously a big one for PlayStation, is the state of play. Now, as far as state of plays go, this year hasn't really had anything. And there's a rumor that the state of play is coming in March, and there's going to be a bigger showcase. There's going to be a bigger showcase after that, before E3, because as we know, PlayStation is not coming to E3 this year. I don't think they've shown up at E3 in a few years. Ains, what are your thoughts on this report regarding a state of play in March? Is there anything that you'd like to see at the state of play? But why I say this, what would you like to see versus what do you think we'll actually see?
What would I like to see? Okay. So I'm a big proponent. Well, not big proponent, but I'm really excited about PSVR 2 next week. I'm kind of half into VR, not really so much, but for whatever reason, I'm really excited for VR 2. So I've got that coming next week. And so I'm kind of curious as to why they haven't had kind of a VR 2 state of play. And I know it's not as mainstream, obviously, as kind of core PlayStation games. Yeah. But, I'd like to see them start mixing in some kind of more things around VR 2 for the future. So we'll see if, I'd like to see we get that. I think that it's been a long time. I've really been excited to see what comes of Last of Us Factions, the kind of multiplayer, broader grand scale Last of Us. They've been in development for a long time. And I'm more curious about it now because I've had a lot of conversations on my shows lately around just live service in general. And we're seeing, we're seeing games like the obvious ones, right? The Warzones, the Apexes, the Fortnites, etc., continue to do extremely well and make tons of money. Yeah. But then you're seeing some of the smaller games really start to take hits. In fact, I think there was a report this morning that Multiversus has lost nearly all of its player base. Yeah. And there's other games that are seeing the same effects. And I just find it really interesting in the sense of what does the future, the next few years hold for kind of titles that are trying to get into this free-to-play live service model. So I'm curious to see what Factions is, right? Like, is it free-to-play or is it what PlayStation's going to consider a fully featured kind of Last of Us purchasable game? Right. Does it have the whole traditional battle pass structure or is it going to do something different, So I really want to see that. I would also love to see. I'm not a big fan. Shockingly, I think I'm going to hurt BMG a little here, but I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man. It just didn't. I'm not a superhero guy. So that game, like, I could recognize how good the game was, but but it's just not for me. But I grew up adoring Punisher and Wolverine, so I'm really excited to see Insomniac's Wolverine. If anything else, I don't think we're going to see any big gameplay presentation, but I would like to at least see like an updated tease, something to do with the game. I think would be neat. And then I'd like to see a surprise, honestly, from PlayStation. They've got a lot of studios. They had Forbidden West and Ragnarok and Gran Turismo 7, kind of their big pillars, if you will, released last year. We know Spider-Man 2 is coming later this year if it stays on track. So I'm kind of curious, there are other studios. What's a first-party title in development that we haven't seen yet? I'm hoping to kind of be surprised to see something new that we have no idea about. PlayStation's pretty good about keeping things under wraps. So I'm excited to hopefully be surprised a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with the VR part because it's coming up. They put a lot of research and development into PSVR 2, especially trying to fix certain issues they had with the PSVR 1. People were reporting issues with the device tracking, their eye movement, eye pain, vertigo, stuff like that. And I know Sony put a lot of money into fixing those issues for PSVR 2. They also have a decent lineup. One of the guys we regularly have on podcasts, Friendly Pest, is a VR guy, and he says he doesn't like the lineup as much as the PSVR lineup. But I know I read this before that the PSVR 2 device will not be backwards compatible with PSVR 1 titles. So if they're going to get people to really adopt this, and they need early adopters, they're going to have it at a state of play event, really to get people behind it. And I think for some people that might bug them a little bit to have an entire event devoted to it. But I think if PlayStation really wants a lot of people to pick this up with the PS5, they're going to need people to see it and to kind of feel like that's an essential part of the PS5 for them to pick up this PSVR 2, and adopt it early.
Yeah, I agree. It's as you said, there's a lot of R&D that's gone into it. They've got a lot invested, and it's from a technological standpoint, right? It's a very impressive device, and that's, I think, what's driving my excitement, because I'm a tech guy, I'm a new toy guy, and so I'm really excited to check it out. But yeah, exactly, right? Like we know that they have the 2 million units ready, but it's clear they haven't sold through. You can still go on PS Direct right now and buy one, right? So I just think if you want to drive some excitement, I know there's people who aren't interested in it, but show why they should be interested in it. And I think they've done that to a degree, but not as much as I would have hoped.
Agreed. Definitely. BMG, what are your thoughts on the upcoming possible March showcase, as well as your thoughts on the PSVR 2 being a possible thing that they show off?
Because it was Jeff Grubb on Grub Snacks who, kind of told us that he says it's a possibility it's going to be late February, but he's quite confident it's going to be early March, and to keep expectations low for the state of play. So imagine we're going to get a couple of third party, maybe a couple of indie games, a bit of PSVR 2, which, PSVR 2's out. Yeah, is it the 22nd? I think it's out, PSVR 2? 22nd?
Yeah, 22nd.
Yep. Yeah.
A week from today.
A week from today, yes. I'm gutted. I won't be picking up day one, just for, cost of living, inflation, and all that kind of. Yeah. I had to put it on the back burner, but I must get an email every 3 or 4 days saying, come pre-order it now, and it's like, so you can tell they want to shift some more units. I think we're gonna get a bit of PSVR 2 there, maybe a first party game, maybe an announcement. Because I remember, I don't know if because they didn't kind of make a song and a dance about it, but I think it was November just gone. They showed off a how would I describe it? It's Unreal, PlayStation 5 exclusive, Unreal 5. It was like what was it called? That game where one person was the monster and there was 4 hunters and he was like an enclosed area. Was it Evolve?
Not Evolve. Yeah.
Evolve. Yeah. Like that. It's pretty much like that. One person's playing like this alien. You're going in, you're like a military group of 4 or 5 people, and you're going into a base to find out what's happened and retrieve some data from the small bit that you saw. And everywhere's in dark, so you've got to use torches, you've got to use light. Light hurts the creature, and you play that creature / alien, hunting them, taking them down. It was literally a 5-minute video. I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember if they actually announced the name or just sort of teased it, but looks absolutely amazing, quite scary, a bit horror, sci-fi based. So I think we might actually see some more of that, because by the looks of what we've seen, it was quite far along. So maybe a bit of that as a first party game. As I said, maybe a bit of factions, maybe get a bit more information on that. I hope, and I'm assuming as well, it's going to be part of their 10 live service games that they're doing over the next few years. Because I don't think they were really including Destiny 2 at that point, but Bungie are working on another game, which I'm assuming is going to be another live service game anyway. So that's probably one of the 10, and I'm assuming factions will be. It's going to be free to play. I don't think you can really charge for that, or you would have to charge a really low fee. But if you have Last of Us Part 1 or Part 2, you get it for free, or shove it in PS Plus. The extra tier. You're going to have to go down that route. Because it was quite a popular multiplayer game. It was, people were gutted when it wasn't reintroduced into the remaster or remake, whatever they're calling it, for Part 1. But if they're working on this whole new side of it, this new version of it, you wouldn't really want to have to remake it for the new consoles if you're working on a new one. So I can understand, like, resource-wise, why they would do it that way. But yeah, I think you're just going to get a few third-party games, something small, a bit of PSVR 2. So gutted I can't have it. I'm going to have to probably wait till Christmas for it, convince the wife, buy her a few gifts through the year to get myself some brownie points in. I did have PSVR 1, and I say the lineup launch games were really, really good. The only issue I had with PSVR 1 was it was like I suffered a lot of eye pain. I could only play it for very short periods of time. Because it would just like my eyes would feel they just felt like they were being squeezed. It was horrible. But I enjoyed the games. Star Trek Bridge Crew is my favorite game on the PSVR. Is absolutely brilliant. You get your crew, one person the captain, one person flies the ship, one does the weapons, one does like the engineering side. Really, really good. And hopefully they'll be able to bring a second one out or redo it. To bring to the new headset. Launch up wise, bit disappointed because I think majority of the games are already out on other headsets, which is a bit disappointing. I was hoping for like more first party, not just Horizon Call to the Mountain, which is a release. That's a release game, I think. I think that's a launch game, isn't it? Yeah, cool. Yeah. Which it's going to be a good experience. I can't imagine it's going to be very long, but it looks amazing, looks fun, and I'd love to be in there. Standing there looking up, seeing the tall necks walking by and stuff, and it looks good. Looks really, really good. So I'm a bit gutted. I'm missing out in that sense, but also I think I'm also happy to wait just so we can see what comes out through the year. Because they're showing us the headset, they're making a bit of a fanfare. They've a lot, we've seen a few unboxings, and you keep the case to keep it in, to keep it stored. They've definitely fully redesigned it, inside out tracking, able to switch it so you can turn your headset so the cameras turn on so you can see your surroundings, which is good. Because I don't know about any of you guys, but I was one of them that I put the headset on for the PSVR 1, and then it's like, shit, where did I put the controllers? And then I'm searching around trying to grab them. And I think the worst experience I had is I played Skyrim, which is fun in VR. A bit janky, but it is fun. But I remember seeing a giant, and I went to whack him with my axe, but I whacked my hand up and hit the wall. Because in the room that means it's small, and I literally sprained my knuckle. It felt like it was like it just ballooned because I hit it that hard. So I proper swinged, and but it was fun. It was worth it. It was worth it. But yeah, the whole redesign, what they've done. I think it was. I was watching PS I Love You XOXO the other day, where they did, sort of talked on their experience with the PSVR 2 with what they could reveal. And they, I think Greg Miller was saying it's quite tight, as in you've got no light coming in, which was a big issue with the VR 1. Because I found with the VR 1, you could see underneath and the sides here, you could see light through. So you turn your light out, but then the PlayStation camera couldn't pick up properly the little glowy balls on top of the wand, so your hands would be waving in the air and your arms just like wobbling at the side and stuff. And but it's good to see that they've improved that. And like I say, the DualSense features it's going to have in the headset, it's going to have in the the Duals. I can't remember the name, what they've called them. It's not. Is it Sense controllers? Something like that. Yeah, they've not called it DualSense. I think it's Sense controllers, something like that, where you've got all the motions and that there. So I'm excited to try it, but I'm also happy to wait until there's more out for it. There's not enough there that would say I'd have to have it day one. I'm excited to get in it. I do like VR, and I kept the PSVR up until I got rid of the PlayStation 4 when I was done with that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. They've got some cool things. The price point for me is still quite high. It's all right. Again, if you've got a PlayStation 5, it's in a way it's half the cost. But if you've got to pick up the PS5 as well, you're talking over $1,000 for both, which, you know, you could pick up the Quest 2 for, I think, is it $499, because they put the price up late last year. They put it up $100, didn't they? $100.
Yeah, I think it's $399 now. Here in the US anyway.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, it'll be the same. Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's the same in UK pounds. Yeah, it's
Okay.
$399 here as well, which bit strange, but you know, we were seeing price increases all over the place. So it was you could pick one of them up for cheaper and have a standalone experience. But yeah, it's exciting to see and hope we get a proper showcase as well before E3 period, June, as it's also rumored, which is going to show off to get some first party games, because all we really know that's coming out this year is Spider-Man 2. That's kind of like the only thing that's really we know that's coming out this year on the PlayStation side, and they've been very quiet. Whether that's due to what's going on with the acquisitions and things like that, and I don't know, but you know, it's we haven't had a proper showcase since it was early last year. I think we had an actual showcase where we saw what was coming, not just a state of play. So yeah, no, I'm interested to see what comes, and looking forward to it. And we'll be live streaming it if there is.
Definitely. I think, you know, I want to say that 90%, if they have a state of play, late February, early March, I want to say 90% of that is going to be PSVR 2, because they need to advertise it as much as possible. And someone on Twitter obviously said PlayStation's marketing is better than Xbox. They're 100% right, because PlayStation puts a lot of thought into how they market stuff. They want to market it beforehand, as well as whenever it's launching, to really give it that boost. And that's why I think that any event within like the next 30 days is going to be heavy PSVR 2. You know, they have the Horizon VR title. They have the GT7 VR that's coming up as well. And they really want as many people as they can to adopt this, not only so that they can make some of that money back through software sales, but so that they can encourage software developers to make games for the PSVR 2, because the more of these developers they have willing to support the PSVR 2, the more likely it is to succeed in the long term. So, and you know, I have to agree with Ains. I think we're going to see factions there as well. But if we're talking about both of these events, I would say the first event that's coming up like within the next 30 days, it's going to be PSVR 2 and factions, especially since The Last of Us show is such a hit, and they're really going to want to capitalize on that momentum. The second thing in March, April, May, whenever it is, the second show that's coming up, I really feel like we're going to see a few surprises. Now, we all gave BMG shit because he was a proponent for the PS5 version of The Last of Us. We all gave him shit, but he was right, because when the show came out, it sold like hotcakes. Everybody wanted to pick up the PS5 version of The Last of Us, even though you can get PS4 The Last of Us Remastered. Even though you could pick that up, people were still picking up PS5's version of The Last of Us for $70. Now, it's been rumored before that they're working on a Twisted Metal TV show. It's a classic PlayStation IP that has been around for a while, since the PS1, I believe, actually. And I think that if they are working on a Twisted Metal TV show, we could get a teaser for that at the event that takes place right before E3, because they want to start building hype for it. As far as Wolverine, I also would like to see something, and I completely get how some people like Wolverine, but they don't necessarily like Spider-Man. Some people complained that the Spider-Man world was kind of bland. It wasn't really that interesting. I got the platinum for Spider-Man, so I did play through it, but I do think that those critiques of that game are warranted. I think they hold some merit, and that's why I think a lot of people who may not pick up Spider-Man 2 might be a lot more interested in Wolverine, and I can't see Wolverine showing up at this event, but I could see something regarding Wolverine showing up at the next event, as well as more Spider-Man 2 footage, maybe some gameplay. But I mean, as far as these two events, you got to look at it as if PlayStation is saying, okay, this one is focused on these two, and then the later one, we might give some teasers and other stuff. So for the one coming up, I don't see them really showing off anything new, but for the one that's rumored before E3, I do see them showing at least one new thing, just because they want to keep building momentum throughout the rest of this year for Spider-Man 2, and of course for Wolverine that might launch next year or the year after. And talking of superhero games, of course, E3 is working on, or E3, sorry, EA is working on an Iron Man game. Now, a lot of people, when Marvel's Avengers came out, a lot of people were looking forward to it, but obviously when Marvel's Avengers didn't do as well as it should have, it kind of soured people on a lot of these Marvel franchises that were coming to consoles. You look at Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like Guardians of the Galaxy is a great game in its own right, but everything that happened with Marvel's Avengers kind of killed the hype for that. And I think with Guardians of the Galaxy doing so well, now some people are more likely to look at EA's Iron Man with a lot more interest. But I'm still skeptical because there was an Iron Man title before. I believe it was made by Sega. Ains, did you ever play the Iron Man that was released for I believe it was the PS3? And what do you think of this new Iron Man news regarding Electronic Arts developing it?
Yeah. No, I never played the old one. Like I said, I there's probably a lot of superhero games that I haven't played. But yeah, no, I never touched that one. I'm much more interested in this new one. I was actually just pulling up as you were talking, trying to refresh my memory on the details about this one. So it's being made by Motive. Motive obviously just released the Dead Space remake to very high critical acclaim. They seem like a very talented studio. And then, they're obviously working directly with Marvel games, and it's actually being led. It's being led by the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, the recent game.
Nice.
So, as you said, that was critically well received as well. A lot of people really like that game. So it looks like the pieces are kind of in place to make this really something solid. I think it's funny because we have an ongoing joke over on a Bitcast about Anthem. We're always talking about Anthem. It just always comes up for some reason. Yeah. And I think the one thing that a lot of people agree on with Anthem is at least the flying mechanics felt really good. And I think that, it's going to be interesting to see how Motive and that development team implement kind of the feeling of what it's like to be Iron Man. I think that's that's probably like the biggest compliment I can throw at Spider-Man is, as you're flying around that city and kind of the humor that comes with it and the personality, like you really did feel like Spider-Man. And I think that it's key to these superhero games, as we're going to continue getting more of them just because of the popularity of them. You have to really allow the player to fulfill the fantasy of being that character. Yes. And so I think they need to kind of obviously take a step back, say, what would it be like to be Iron Man? What does that look like? And so, hopefully they do that justice. I was trying to read some other details. It says an original narrative focused on the history of Iron Man and Tony Stark. So I don't know if that means it's going to be something like, where you're Tony Stark and it's the early days of him kind of becoming Iron Man, or if it's something a little later. But either way, I think they've got to make Iron Man feel as powerful and kind of all encompassing as he can be. And that's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off, because if you think about flying mechanics and kind of the combat abilities he has and transformation back to Tony, we'll see. I'm sure that's going to be a pretty big task.
And that's funny because I think everybody says with Anthem, this is how Iron Man should fly. This is exactly how the physics should be. And that it's like BioWare got that perfect. And it's sad that Anthem didn't that it wasn't more successful, but it was essential in the fact that it showed future studios like Motive how Iron Man should fly, how he should react in combat, how he should move. Because I remember I owned the Iron Man game for PS3 for maybe 4 hours. I picked it up, I took it back, played it the same day I returned it to GameStop, and I was like, I am not interested, because the flying was wonky. You're flying all over the place. You had no way of really engaging enemies in combat where you weren't missing them completely or getting killed all the time.
Okay.
So it was a mess, But hearing that EA is developing this and that it's single player focused has me excited. But I also think EA they're kind of eating crow right now. so to speak, because they were the ones that were saying, "Oh, single player games are gone, they're dead." What was that, like 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah.
And now you look at them making Jedi Fallen Order; it's a single player game. You look at them making Iron Man; it's a single player game. And I'm glad to see that they learned from their mistakes, but I'm also glad that they have someone with the developing ability, like Motive, to put this together. And me personally, I'm excited for it. I know BMG might be a little upset, but I'm actually more excited for Iron Man than I am for Spider-Man 2. I know. I'm gonna get shit for him. I'm gonna get shit from him for like 2 weeks because of this. But I mean, I am looking forward to Spider-Man 2, but I'm looking forward to Iron Man even more because I think Iron Man is a kick-ass superhero. What do you think, BMG? Aside from my diss with Spider-Man 2, what are you thinking about this new Iron Man game? And did you ever play the one that came out 2 generations ago?
Yes, I'll leave it for now. I'm sure I will drag you over the coals over the next few months.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I did. I played it. It was for the 360, I believe, if I remember rightly. That Iron Man came out, done by Sega. Yeah, it was like a semi-open world. You literally chucked in as Iron Man. You could fly around the city. Yeah, it was rather overpowered. I think it was quite hard for you to actually be killed and stuff, but. It was fun. It was a fun game. Even the flying mechanics weren't actually that bad. It was. The fact. Well,
I mean, you do play Marvel Snap though, so there's kind of like a little quality curve there. I mean,
the actual flying was pretty much the same as what Superman Returns was. I don't know if anyone played that. Best superhero game ever made. Superman Returns. No. I even had it. 1 second. Let's see if I can get this without knocking anything down. I even got from the framing game guy. I had it framed.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Oh,
yeah. Did he send you an email and say, "Are you sure this is the right game?"
Yeah, he was back and forth in the DMs over Twitter. Are you sure it's this one? And I was like, yes, it's an awesome game. It's so brilliant. Oh, it is. I do love that game. That is that is probably my favorite game out of any game ever. Is Superman Returns. And I kept, sending pictures to Phil Spencer and that to let me have it on backwards compatibility, but wouldn't have it.
Right.
Wouldn't have it. Yeah. Never send nudity pictures to head of Xbox. Doesn't appreciate it. It was good for the 360. It was all right. Was Iron Man, but like superhero games really haven't been that good really through the generations. We saw it started to improve recently on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One era. For a new Iron Man game, as Anthems, you've got the flying mechanics there. You just got to do away with where you have to go through the waterfalls and dip into the water to kind of stop the overheating. But flying mechanic wise, you've got that down to a T. You just need to put a bit more maneuverability on it, and also the first in Anthem, the first suit you get. Where you're more for running around more than anything else, like the rockets from the back and stuff like that. The mechanics, and if you actually watch it, the way like the slide open up, and they've got the sound effects before rockets fly out. They've got that stuff down to a T, and I'm pretty sure they're going to take a lot what they can from Anthem, which was actually a good game. I actually enjoyed. Story was a bit pants, but it was fun flying through the open world, and what bits and bats you could do in that. It was a good game, and it's a shame that it didn't get. Anthem 2.0 didn't hit because I think that would have been its. I would say that might have been its No Man's Sky moment, because I had all this new stuff that they announced, all this new stuff that was going to introduce, and sadly, it didn't work out. The loot system was absolutely screwed. They tried fixing it repeatedly, and it just didn't work. But for a new Iron Man game, I'd rather have original story than trying to follow anything that the films are doing. Maybe I'd probably say instead of having to go right from the start where you try to first get in the suit, I'd sooner skip that. I'd rather do what Spider-Man did, where pretty much you get a quick explanation with a cutscene on how he became Iron Man, but actually be Iron Man. Big open world. It's hard because it's like, what kind of story do you go with? Do you do something that's, are the Avengers involved? Is it like a story that ties into that? Yeah, you're going off world. It's hard to imagine what kind of story they're going to go with. It's all right if the tie down the character who's going to play Iron Man. The mechanics and stuff, but you've got to have that story there, and it's like, what kind of story would you want from Iron Man? And top of my head, I don't think there's actually anything that I haven't already seen in a film or anything that actually jumps to mind that I want to see, if I'm honest. I am more excited for something in Spider-Man because the first one set up the second one, and there's so much lore and so much going on. Whereas Iron Man, I love Marvel films, love superhero films, seen all the Avengers or Iron Man films, all the films that tie into it. But I just can't think of a story that I'd actually really want to see that we haven't already been told through films, if I'm honest. Just now comes to mind. I'm not overexcited for it. Obviously, I'm going to play it anyway because it's Iron Man. I want to be Iron Man.
I think.
Give me a Michael Keaton Batman game.
Yeah, well, that might happen with the upcoming. I don't even know what that movie's called with the Flash. I don't even remember what it's called.
The Flash. Did you watch it? Did you watch the trailer?
Yeah, with General Zod and with Michael Keaton's Superman. It also has Batfleck. Yep,
Batman. Michael Keaton wasn't Superman; he was Batman. How awesome is it to see him? And right at the end, I'm Batman. Oh.
Yeah, in Iron Man's defense, Marvel is a big place. It's a big place. There's a lot of bad guys. There's a lot of also superheroes we haven't seen yet. And I don't think any of us could have called the storyline that went into Guardians of the Galaxy, but it worked so well for how they crafted it. So if you have people putting together this story that respect the source material and really care about it, I think we're going to see something special from Iron Man, especially since, it's single player focused, and that obviously means it's going to be story focused. And with Motive taking the lead on this, I'm very optimistic towards it. Speaking of superhero games, there's actually a Wonder Woman game also in development. And I know Wonder Woman's not necessarily a superhero that I think we've ever seen a superhero game for. But Monolith Productions, that is known for Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War. They're developing a single-player open-world action game, and of course, it's starring Wonder Woman. And it is being published, obviously, by WB. But I want to say that it's pretty early in development. I don't even know if they're expecting this to come out in 2024. But I did want to bring it up. Ains, is the idea of a Wonder Woman superhero game something that you would want to play?
Yeah, I think yes. I think a lot of these games, like in my mind, it's really just comes down to quality. I realize that sounds kind of obvious, right? But like when you think about these different superheroes, obviously if you grew up with one or you have an affinity for one, that's going to be the one you want to play most, and that obvious, that makes perfect sense. But I think, like, if you're someone like me who, outside of maybe Punisher or Wolverine, like I said, I don't really have a huge love for any specific superhero. Yeah. I'll play the game if it's a really good game, right? Like, if it's just polished and well made, I'll play it. And I think Wonder Woman is just another one of those characters that has a, huge strength of abilities. And, if it's a good game, it's a good game. I do have confidence in Monolith. I mean, Monolith, they're a super talented studio. They've made a lot of cool games. Obviously, they hit it big with the Lord of the Rings games, the Shadow games, like you said, and they made one of my favorite little games, which most people forget about nowadays, but Gotham City Imposters back on the 360.
Oh, it was a free-to-play game.
Yeah, it was. It was a multiplayer only game. I don't know if it was free to play back then. I can't remember, but yeah, that game I adored, and there's still like this cult following for that game. That was made by Monolith as well and based on a comic. So I think that the talent they have will shine through, and hopefully it's a really good game. And as BMG said too, like, we grew up, I think many of us, or at least me, I'm old, grew up with a lot of licensed games being poor. It was just like they were
Yeah.
movie tie-ins, they were budget titles, low developers, just making a buck really off of the IP. Whereas I think, the modern games, like we said, the Spider-Mans, the Guardians of the Galaxy, all the newer ones, I think the success of the MCU and in the kind of film industry has translated over to the gaming industry, and the success of Spider-Man and those other games has kind of proven it out that I think that publishers know how popular these games can be if they're done well. And so we're just going to see better and better quality superhero games, I think.
I think Wonder Woman is interesting because in my opinion, if you look at DC, the top 3 characters, obviously it's Batman, it's Superman, but the third is Wonder Woman, and I think those 3 together kind of run the Justice League. And so to see, obviously we've had tons of Batman games, but to see them do a Wonder Woman game kind of makes you wonder if Warner Brothers wants to later on, maybe with the next game after this or the game after that, establish some type of Justice League, some type of Justice League connected universe. Because I know it didn't work out with Marvel's Avengers, but we've seen other superhero games tie in together all these characters. Spider-Man is a good example because it tied in all of these bad guys. And of course, Spider-Man for the PS4 had a number of references to like Marvel's Avengers and Daredevil and other characters. So it kind of makes you wonder if Warner Brothers isn't trying to follow in those footsteps with Wonder Woman, and then later on maybe get a Superman game as well. I know there was actually a rumor about an upcoming, let me see, Warner Brothers game, Montreal's next DC game is single player on Unreal Engine 5. Now, this is not Wonder Woman. They haven't said what it is yet, but of course the speculation is running wild. Everyone is hoping this is going to be a Superman game. Do you think, Ains, that could possibly be a Superman game? Or if it's not a Superman game, what character would you see being a good fit for that type of game?
Yeah. There's been, as you said, right, I think that because of the popularity of the movies and the money they make, it's always about money at the end of the day, right? And the popularity of the games and these characters. I just think you already said it, that there is a hierarchy for the IP strength of these characters. Spider-Man is massive, Batman is massive, but Superman is right up there. And I think that I think the things we've heard about Superman games before is, how do you make a good Superman game? He's all powerful. How do you combat that? And it's a video game. Like I definitely foresee ways that developers can do that. And I think, as we just said, like the investment that these studios are going to make now into these IPs, knowing how big they can be, I don't think we can get away from seeing a big budget AAA Superman title for much longer. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if this is Superman. They kind of start to nail it, what a Superman game can really be. I would be excited about that too. I think that if the fantasy of these games is becoming a superhero, then, to some degree, I guess you could argue that the all-encompassing power fantasy is Superman, because he's damn near indestructible. You know what I mean? Like, he can do everything. He can. So I think that could be really cool if done right. You start talking about what's capable in these new games with engines. You mentioned Unreal 5, and I've done a lot of research on that lately because of the damn Halo news. And so, the physics capabilities, the open world capabilities, I think they can finally find a way to kind of give Superman a big open world that you can fly around and just, have destructibility within the environments and put that together. So a little long-winded there, sorry, but I think that if I had to bet on anything, I'm with you that I think I would probably bet on it being a Superman game, because they're going to capitalize on that character sooner rather than later.
Right. I definitely agree. BMG, what are your thoughts on the odds of this being a Superman game? And what do you think about the upcoming Wonder Woman game?
Well, when they announced Wonder Woman, I was very disappointed. Very. Not as in the character, it'll be an exciting to play a game as Wonder Woman, but we were all hoping for a Superman game. There was bits from a Superman game that were teased over the last couple of years or so, and that is what we should have had. and then they canned it to move, for Suicide Squad, and took some assets from what they made from the game into that. So I was gutted. I wanted a Superman game. I've been wanting a Superman game since Superman Returns. I can't play that anymore because I don't have a 360. And they won't give me on backwards compatibility. So give me a Superman game. Make me overpowered. And let me go crazy if I want to go crazy. Save people, kill people, destroy the world, whatever. Give me a Superman game. But
I think Lex Luthor might be better suited for you with the way things are,
Oh, yeah. That's I style my hairstyle on Michael Rosenberg's Lex Luthor character from Smallville. My idol.
Right.
But no, it's hard because James Gunn, who's now head of DC, who's unifying, which is so bizarre to me. How the hell they're going to make the cartoons, TV shows, the films, and the games all connect? Because that's what they've said. Whoever plays the actor in the film is going to play the actor in the game. Who's going to play the actor on the TV show? Who's going to play the voice on the animated version? Personally, I don't think you can possibly do that, because what if an actor decides he wants to leave or whatever? I don't know. But how they're going to connect all that is just, I don't understand how they're going to do it. So if it's going to be a Superman game, it'll be whoever's going to be playing the next Superman, which getting rid of Henry Cavill was the biggest mistake that DC ever made. Yeah. Come on, Henry. Forget The Witcher. We want you back as Superman for the next 3 films. Yeah, no worries. See you later, Witcher. Oh, sorry, mate. We don't want you anymore. Sorry. See you later.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
That was bad. Luckily, he's kind of got the projects in mind that he wants to do, because he wants to do what was that? What was that game he wants? Is it not World of Warcraft?
Warhammer.
There's another one. Warhammer. That's it. Warhammer, because he's a big, huge Warhammer fan. So he wants to do a Warhammer film. He's been pushing for that, so that's probably going to be a thing. But if I'm hoping it's a Superman game, but in the direction they've sort of going now with DC, I haven't got much faith. I just can't see how it's all going to connect, because everything's got to connect. If something happens in the game, it connects to the films, the TV shows, and it's just like, how are you going to do that? It just seems something that's something that you can't manage. It's all right having films and TV shows to connect with each other, because Marvel do it. They've long-winded do it, and you have to watch like thousands of hours of episodes to see what happens in between films and things, which is just absolutely stir crazy. I hated that I had to sit through She-Hulk. Last thing I wanted to see was She-Hulk twerking. It's just like, why do I need to see this? Oh no!
Wow.
I could just imagine you got Batman in the Batcave just twerking with Alfred stood there going, "Nice one, sir. Nice one." No. Yeah. What an image! Where it's going back to the George Clooney Batman, where he's got nipples on his suit.
Remind me of that movie.
Bad memory.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad movie.
Yeah, terrible. It was awfully bad. Yeah. But
okay, so
I've just got no hope. I've got no hope for them, and whatever they're going to make is not going to be good.
Well, what if you could have both a Wonder Woman game and a Superman game?
I'd have them both, but Superman would be my preference, because I've wanted to play a game as Superman for a very long time. So,
all right, so let's say for arguments,
it's interesting.
Well, let's say for argument's sake that it's not Superman for whatever reason, because as Ains said, you'd have to almost nerf Superman so he couldn't destroy the entire landscape. So we already know Wonder Woman's in development. They said this is another superhero game, and it's not likely to be a second Wonder Woman game already. Ains and BMG, I want to know your thoughts on like 2 other characters from the DC universe that you could see them making a video game about. Ains, go ahead.
Put me on the spot, man. I told you I'm not a big superhero guy. I'm gonna start pulling up Google.
I mean, you could just go with guys from the the Justice League.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, what does a Flash game look like? I don't. it's kind of weird because it's almost even worse than Superman in terms of trying to visualize it, because Flash is Flash, right? He's super quick. How does that translate to game mechanics? How does that translate to story? What are you doing just zooming around the world? What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, because you'd have to nerf his speed is what you'd have to do.
Yeah, and then you're not Flash, right? Then you're getting rid of the power fantasy of being Flash. So
exactly, yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. I honestly, I don't know. Honestly, BMG probably would have a much better answer than me. I will tell you randomly, a random thought is I would love a AAA good Hellboy game.
That would be interesting.
Ooh,
I like Hellboy as a character. He's kind of fun. He's not ridiculous in terms of kind of power, right? You can kind of make it actual combat, melee combat, shooting combat, like a third-person action game with Hellboy. I think would be really fun.
There's a Hellboy game coming out this year, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like it's the one based on Mike Minotti, is it? The original artist of Hellboy. I only know that because I had a statue of him that I sold. Yeah, I know there's that one, but that's kind of like a 2D smaller type game, right?
Now you have me wondering if DC has to be limited to like Justice League characters. That's interesting. Very interesting. What do you think, BMG? 2 characters from DC.
I'm literally Googling right now to help myself.
My first one would be Green Lantern. The film was awful, one of Ryan Reynolds' worst films he's ever done. But you could do a Green Lantern game where you can have the flying mechanics, you can, you create things with a ring, but you're not invincible. You can be killed like any other character. So you could have that set on multiple planets in space. So Green Lantern would be a good way to go because there's quite a lot of story and lore in that as well. With where they go the opposite with the ring. It's many things to go for. But what would be ideal for me, and it's not a superhero game, a villain game, the Joker.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
You could be the Joker, and you could have Batman in the game, and Batman's obviously. He's technically to us would be the enemy in the game, but we're playing the Joker going down that route, causing chaos, destroying things, and ultimately facing down with Batman. I'd love a game going that route, an actual game where you play the villain and not the good guy, not the hero. Do a bit different. Go the opposite way, or even maybe a Black Adam game. Go down that route. Yeah. He's got a lot of powers and stuff, but he's not invincible. He can be killed, can be injured. In fact, if anyone's watched the awful Black Adam film, which really is bad film, there's already weapons and technology in place that can hurt him anyway. So, there's a lot of options you can go with, but it's just with DC, when everything could DC, it's always Batman, Superman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. That's pretty much it. So I would probably just maybe go the opposite side. Start looking at the villains. Go the villains route. Do something a bit different. Have a Penguin game where it's a bit like The Godfather, where you're trying to take over the city and
mobster
have your gang
game
taking over. Yeah. Because they're currently in the filming at the moment a Penguin TV show with the Colin Farrell who played
Colin Farrell.
Penguin. Yeah. So there's a TV show in that. Maybe go use some of that material, go off that a bit, maybe do something like that. Yeah, like a Mafia Godfather type thing. Go that route instead of it having to be a superhero saving the world. You could still have superheroes in it that are trying to stop you and some smaller characters. But yeah, maybe go that route. You've got the Hawk and things like that. There's a lot of DC characters that just aren't utilized at all. Because you've got is it Justice of America? I think they're called, which again, a lot of characters we got like Dr. Fate and things like that, and they have a Dr. Fate game. It's true. The thing is, when you use less known characters, it's hard to get traction to people to play them. But yeah, I'd like a villain game, and I'd quite like a Joker game. Be the Joker.
I think a Joker game would be interesting.
What
Some
about? I
people
was
just
looking it
want
up, and
to
what about? What about like an Aquaman game? Is he big enough as a character now with the modern movies to make a game out of that somehow?
I mean, he's had one, so you could.
The film was all right. The film was okay. It wasn't brilliant. To be honest, what was that? You could have like a Deadshot film. What was that TV show with John Cena in? I can't remember his name.
Peacemaker.
John Cena. Peacemaker.
You could do that too.
That would be brilliant.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
That I don't know if anyone's watched that TV show, but it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And. Spoilers for the end of it, but right at the very end, once everything's done in Peacemaker, he's walking off, and then Superman turns up with the Flash and Aquaman, and Peacemaker accuses Aquaman for sleeping with fish, literally. And that's the funniest thing I've seen Aquaman in with a Flash. It's like, yeah, you do look like someone who sleep with fish, and it's you got that route to go. It's yeah.
Something interesting about the information that's leaked regarding this is not necessarily that it's a superhero game, just that it's a DC game, it's single player, and it's on Unreal Engine 5. Now, a lot of us are automatically saying, "Oh, it's DC, it's superheroes, right?" But going back over the information, it only says that it's a DC game. And characters like Constantine and Judge Dredd actually belong to DC. It's single player focused.
Constantine would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean we haven't really seen a Constantine video game that I've ever seen before. And of course, the Constantine film with Keanu Reeves was extremely interesting. It's based on a comic book, but it's a comic book movie like we've never seen before. And for them to come up with I know that a lot of people had wanted a Constantine sequel. Keanu Reeves himself had said before he was open to it. So it would be interesting to see if they tried to throw some weight behind it with a Constantine-based video game. And Dredd, of course, everyone is always talking about a Dredd video game, which I think would be phenomenal. I think we've actually talked about it on the XBL Party podcast as well, to some length, because like the Punisher, Dredd is very visceral, he's very violent, and he definitely has a cult following. And I know, Ains, you had mentioned that you were a fan of the Punisher. Has Dredd been one of those characters that you've ever been interested in?
When I was younger, a little bit. Yeah, I haven't followed it, closely, but yeah, he was one of the ones that, kind of struck that same nerve, if you will, as Punisher. Punisher was always my go-to when I was younger, but yeah, he's there. And about Constantine, it's funny you mentioned that because I just looked it up because I was like, I swear I heard something about that recently. So they are making, it's funny you bring that up because they are making finally the sequel to Keanu Reeves' Constantine. They're making Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves. It was announced back in September. So it could be just a coincidence. Who knows? But you may be onto something timing-wise around, potentially the Constantine coming back to the forefront, in terms of a movie with Keanu Reeves and a potential game.
And I know they had they teased this. Not necessarily, it wasn't officially. It was kind of through back channels, if you want to call it that. But the fact that they're actually developing this and they have a job listing from WB Games Montreal, it could already be significantly in development. If it is a Constantine game, it could already be significantly in development with it releasing shortly after the movie shows up.
Yeah, could very well be.
Let's just hope Keanu Reeves doesn't curse it and it turns into the new Matrix film.
Wow, I don't think that was his part. I mean, I don't think
he wanted it. He wanted to do another sequel to The Matrix. Nobody else wanted it. He pushed for it. And look what the crap we got. Oh my God. I would have rather seen a reboot than that rubbish. Oh my God. It made the Matrix Online game look really more entertaining. And that was awful.
Wow. Okay.
You didn't like it then?
Yeah.
No. I actually paid because I waited until it came so you could watch, rent it to watch at home.
Yeah.
And I just remember putting my head on the coffee table and just whacking the back of my head repeatedly to try and help me forget the film. It was,
Wow.
I just couldn't unsee it. It was just so bad. And I was like, that's
Jesus.
like time of my life. I am never getting back. Cheers, Keanu.
Wow.
How much do you want to bet? Right, and I will put money on it. How much do you want to bet that in Constantine 2, he's got long hair and a beard?
Yeah, you know
How
what?
bad does he look without that beard now? He's
Yeah, that's true. It's possible.
yeah, look at his other bad stinker. What was the new Bill and Ted? Face the Music. Jesus Christ, it looked like he was a former priest that just got released from prison for doing things he shouldn't be.
Jesus.
Bad.
I can already see
John Wick film.
Yeah, you know what? I can already see YouTube pulling this like 15 minutes after it's live. Thanks, BMJ. You know what? This one is actually a live. This one is light compared to some of the shit he said before, so we should be all right. Don't BMG. Don't say any of that crazy shit. Yep.
Keeping it down. Keep toning it down. I'm toning it down.
Very good. Very good. Changing gears a little bit from the superhero thing and Keanu Reeves looking like a priest that just got out of prison. European PS5 sales in January were reportedly up 200% year over year. Sony's console is benefiting from more readily available stock in key markets. Across European markets in January, PS5 sales are up 202% compared to the year before. PS5 was the number one console last month. Switch falls to number 2, while the Xbox Series X and S are number 3, sales down 32%. Ains, do you think it's more that these consoles are available, or do you think the lineup that PlayStation has had thus far has helped more to increase the sales of this console?
Quite frankly, I think it's both. The PlayStation 5, like if you look at all the analytics around globally, right, around the kind of brand strength of the console, meaning how many people want it versus how many can get it. It's clear that supply has been a problem for the first 2 years. Yeah. And they announced, I want to say about third quarter-ish, that production was finally ramping up and they would, get out of this hole, if you will. And so I think that combined with the fact that God of War Ragnarok was a monumental success. It sold 11 million copies in like the first month or whatever, or before the end of the year. Combined with the success of The Last of Us now, and that just kind of going through the roof with the show. I mean, they're just kind of, from a cultural standpoint, they're hitting on all cylinders. And it's, I've said before that, you read Twitter long enough, you go brain dead. But I see people talking about, all kinds of different things about PlayStation, and it's just like, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks personally. If you look at their financials, and I have their fiscal results literally right in front of me as you start to talk about this. I mean, they're impressive across the board, hugely impressive, and they're setting records. And keep in mind, when you're talking about PlayStation setting fiscal records around revenue and profitability, it's PlayStation. PlayStation has been a gigantic player in the gaming industry for nearly 30 years now. So and PlayStation 4 obviously another monumental success. So anyway, it's just, I think it's a combination of all factors, whether you like Jim Ryan or not, whether you like what they're doing or not. Everyone has opinions on various aspects of that. At the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers, and you can only look at the PS5 and what PlayStation is currently doing as a financial success, even if you have problems with, like I said, various specific things. But yeah, they're crushing it, man. It's wild to see it. And when you think about the fact that they're coming into 2023, they've got PSVR 2, they've got Spider-Man 2. Let's not forget that Spider-Man 1 is the best-selling PlayStation first-party game of all time. It's number 1. So PlayStation 2 is going to probably dwarf even what Ragnarok did when it launches later this year, assuming it's on track. And they're just, I don't know what else to say about them, man. It's all on the up and up for them right now. So it's cool to see as a fan of gaming that PlayStation is doing so well. And all I can hope, being, like I said, kind of for whatever reason, hugely interested in PSVR 2, just don't Vita me. please don't
Right.
Vita me. I love the Vita to death. I still think it's an incredible device, so many years later. And I just hope that they double down on their investment for VR2 and obviously the rest of first party.
Definitely. I know you earned some brownie points with BMG. Jim Ryan is his unofficial uncle, so anytime he hears someone talk up Jim Ryan, he's like, "Yep, that's right."
Oh my God, I can say that. Well, I'll pull back a little bit then. I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Ryan in terms of he's what I call very corporate, and I work my career jobs in a big corporate. Corporation. Right. I'm in leadership. I work with executive leadership. So I'm kind of around certain people that put off certain demeanors a lot. And Jim Ryan, especially when you compare him to Sean Layden, he's just a different person, and that's neither good or bad. It's whatever. He's being extremely successful with the brand, whether you like him or not. But as a person, he just comes off incredibly corporate to me. He's very cold. And I don't like if he speaks, I could fall asleep. I just don't care.
How can you not love that smile?
I just don't care. He does nothing for me. I'd love to see these financial results with Sean Layden still coming out and talking to me because he just felt so genuine, whereas Jim doesn't. But regardless, like I said, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of him. If he's doing a good job, he's doing a good job, and by all accounts, he's doing a good job.
And BMG, we know where you stand with Jim Ryan, so. Aside from,
by the way, I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. Like, I don't know if you actually like him or don't like him, but
my uncle dancing Jimmy Ryan. Oh, he's there to protect us gamers. He's looking after us. He's there fighting in courts, go flying around the world, seeing these regulators. Banging on their doors, chucking PS5s at them, chucking PSVR2s at them, saying, "You block this deal. We need to protect our gamers." BaldManGamer's at home, shedding a tear. He's never going to give up on us. He's never going to run around and desert us. He's there forever. Love you, Jim.
Jesus.
No, he's he's a businessman.
He's a businessman. That's all it is. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. It's just because it's hard because like all through PlayStation, especially through the PlayStation 4 era, it's been these personalities on the front, people we've got to know, people we like, Shuei is, he was such a, big front of PlayStation, and he's like all that smile and enthusiasm. You listen to everything he said. Sean Layden the same. You just like every word they said. You just listened off, and he knew how to connect with an audience and speak with an audience, and they were good at that. But PlayStation, Sony pivoted in a different direction, and obviously they decided they wanted to get away from that and just go more business route, concentrate on more that side of stuff. And Jim Ryan's the right person for that. He's, whether you like him or not, he's the right man for the job. He's literally, and the proof's there in the pudding with, you've got Herman Holst. I think he's a really, really good guy from what we've seen. He's quite good when he's talking to people, when we see him on when it's the state of plays or showcases and he's talking to the audience, because he's been there at the ground floor, started from the bottom, built his way up to head of a studio to now be head of PlayStation Studios. I think a lot of more the directions with him and in like the games wise than Jim Ryan is. Jim Ryan's overall steering the business, but we forget that Herman Holst is the one that's green-lighting games or turning games down or making them change direction. That's more of his side of things, isn't it? No one really talks. No one ever talks about Herman Holst. And he's the guy, as the head of PlayStation Studios. He's the one that's directing it more. And, you just can't deny the games that they do. We always have this thing on the XBL Party podcast where every PlayStation game's the same. And to me, they're not. I can understand where people are coming from, but the sales and the games and the stories in the game say, it's different. It says different, makes you feel different emotions, makes you feel different. different experiences. And I mainly play games for the story. The story is important to me. I like to forget what's going on in the world and immerse myself into the lives of these characters in this world and explore what's going on there. And I do play multiplayer games here and there with friends, and I don't mind that, but that's where my focus is story. And PlayStation, without fail, have always provided that. You know, Uncharted games, absolutely love the series. It's one of my best series on PlayStation. I love all the games, the depth of the characters. God of War, the originals, I was always a bit iffy on because, yes, there was a bit of a story there, but not as much. It was just about, you know, bloodying everything up as much as you can. Whereas the God of War 2018, I connected to so much on quite an emotional level, and sort of the emotional experiences between Kratos and Atreus. I've sort of had them experiences with my father and me with my son, and I connected quite deeply there, and it just enthralled me even more of what was going on. And it was more of not so much the where you was going in the game, but that relationship between the characters. And it's hard sometimes for people to be able to do that. Naughty Dog are just a talent, you know, above probably nearly every studio going. If in my opinion, I just think the stories they can tell and things they can do, and like God of War Ragnarok, again, you're building more on that. But I thought personally, it was more of Kratos' story opening up more and becoming more of a human than a demigod. And it's just the way they went with it. I don't know if either of you have played God of War Ragnarok and finished it, but it's such a good game. And there is a spoiler. I don't know if Sentinel, I don't know if you want to do that story or not about the alternate ending to God of War, which was originally planned, but because you've not played the game, so if not, ignore that one. But it's like the ending of Ragnarok as well. It's not the big boss fight and that at the end. It's what comes after that, and that father and son thing again. I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's quite a hard thing to do. To what happens, and it's hard because I don't want to spoil it for you, Sentinel, or anyone else watching and listening. It's hard that what happens at that point. It's quite hard especially if you're a parent. You can, from a parent point of view, looking at it, it's like what happens. It's quite hard to. If I had been in that situation, if that sort, make sense, but they just know how to. PlayStation, especially Naughty Dog, just know how to grab you and pull you in, and it's just they just make amazing games. And they've got more consoles on the market. They're selling millions upon millions of games. Like say, as I said, when people say, what was the point in making a Last of Us Part 1 remake? It's like, it's not aimed at anyone that's already got the game or played the games. It's aimed at getting new people in the ecosystem. People are going to watch that TV show. And when literally, as soon as that first episode finished, PlayStation was straight on Twitter. Hope you enjoyed the first episode. It was explosive. Oh, by the way, you can play Last of Us Part 1 on the PlayStation 5.
Yep.
I wonder how many consoles and copies of that game that sold, because that's where it's at. That's who it's aimed at. And I want to play it. I've not played Last of Us Part 1 for a long time because I think I was more in that Uncharted mindset, because both games play completely different. And it was hard to go from Uncharted to Last of Us because it's a whole different experience and mechanics. And I do want to go back to it. And I do want. And the more I've watched the show, I watched the latest episode, which aired day before the Super Bowl. Amazing episode, absolute, and loved it. And I just keep thinking, I just really want to play the game. I really want to pick a game and get into the game again and actually get it on the built for the PS5. So you can't, and you just can't doubt what they're doing.
I think that's what separates PlayStation from Xbox right now. Is Xbox has to fight to get people to talk about them, Whereas PlayStation, they drop one thing and everybody can't stop talking about them. So they don't have to do much. It's efficient marketing. And, I think they're efficient marketing. I think their stellar lineup that they keep building on, all these IPs that they've invested in, as well as these consoles being more readily available, has helped them to reach new heights with these console sales. And to be perfectly honest, I would not be surprised if the lifetime sales for the PS5 eclipse the PS4, just because it seems like they're looking at what didn't work last generation as far as their marketing goes, and they're really working on fixing it this generation. You also look at the Last of Us TV show, and of course at the Twisted Metal TV show that's upcoming, and they're really branching out to help build that PlayStation hype. And I think all of this is working collectively together to not only build the amount of people playing on PlayStation, but just the amount of people talking about PlayStation. The last thing I do want to mention before we move on to our last story is, everyone complains. They say, oh, all these games are cookie cutter. They're, third person, they're third person action, this and that. But how many of these successful AAA multi-platform games have we seen that have been third person action, exactly like PlayStation? It's like, I understand some people only game on Xbox and they don't understand how great these games are, or that they're not cookie cutter, that they actually have a lot of, there's a lot of difference between a game like Days Gone and Uncharted and The Last of Us and the Horizon series than people give them credit for. And it's that level of quality, I think, that Xbox really needs to strive for, because PlayStation hasn't figured out. And that's kind of why everyone talks about them as being the premier gaming brand, because PlayStation hasn't figured out.
Yeah, but it's like that's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, they all do the same games, but with a different skin. But it's like, you've got 5 Gears of War games, 6 Halo games. They're all first-person games.
Yes.
You've got numpteen racing games. They're all racing games. But that's different. It's like, oh, that's okay. But no, it's not. It's the same. There's only so many different perspectives and styles you can do a game. But if it works, why change it? If it's working, it's selling, it's making games, it's giving you different experiences, why change it? Like Ghost of Tsushima is an absolute amazing game. I didn't think it's a game I would like as, open world, third person game, but the story, the game, the world, and it does something different. You don't get a marker on a map and you have to follow the marker. Ghost of Tsushima, you have to look for the wind. The wind blows in the direction you're going to your next objective. Yes. You've got to follow stuff. You do it differently. You don't just look at you haven't got a map. You don't look like a map and right, there's my dot. I walk over there, follow that line. Like the wind, you've got to watch the direction of the wind's going and then make your way to that. It's doing something a bit different, and and appreciated that. And I've got a feeling we're going to hear about what Sucker Punch is doing this year, maybe at the showcase. But yeah, at the end of the day, I like Xbox, I like PlayStation. I've got both the new consoles, love them both, love games on both of them. But yeah, Xbox do need to just try and do things a bit different. I know they're trying, and people say they're not moving fast enough. But again, it's like a giant ship, isn't it? You start turning, it turns slowly. It's not something you can just course correct straight away. It takes time and what have you. And with everything that's going on at the moment, it's hard to see that. But I'm quite confident with what the Xbox have got coming out this year as well. I'm so really looking forward to Starfield. I'm quite excited to play that. I know a lot of people didn't like the gameplay they saw this year. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It gave me a bit more of an insight into the game. And hopefully they do what 343 did with Halo, go away and come back and show us better. Show us what they've taken and what people have said and improve upon that. And I think Starfield will do that. And the delay was well deserved, and it was, take all the time you need when it comes to games. No point rushing the game out early just to get it out. Just, you'd rather get fan backlash on the game delay than fan backlash on the game being bad, because there's constant bugs and issues and performance issues. But yeah, it's hard, but yeah, it's hopefully both going to have really good lineups this year, and we're going to see some really good stuff. Now, Coke, because even Phil Spencer said can't use COVID as an excuse anymore because we're past that point now. So
Yeah.
Good games. That's what we need. Good games on both.
Now, with our last topic, obviously we're talking about Microsoft and their clash with PlayStation. There were a few topics, a few news stories, but I think the one I want to, and keep in mind, some of this is mudslinging by these gaming journalist organizations. They're talking about how heated it's getting between Microsoft and PlayStation. So I wanted to be very discerning with which topic I picked for our last discussion. Ains, I know you said you work in a corporate environment. Now, the story we're talking about next, Microsoft and Activision bizarrely demand PlayStation leadership's performance reviews. I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because I think for a lot of us, we're kind of, even those of us that are outside the corporate world, we're like, what are they doing? What are your thoughts on this? Are they overstepping their bounds, or is this something that they have the right to see?
It's certainly interesting. I wouldn't have expected it. I can't speak from, a place of knowledge on the ins and outs of how these types of kind of debates for major deals go, specifically with relation to this. But I think, BMG was joking about Jim Ryan, and he has been kind of this all hands on deck opposition to this deal, right? And there's a number of reasons for that, because I'm sure you guys have talked about it and we could get into it, but he's just looking out for his business, and it doesn't matter what he looks like to the public, doesn't matter what happens on Twitter. He's looking out to protect the business in any way that he can for Sony. And I think that Microsoft has gotten to a place now where, I speak to Hogue Law a lot, as he's on my show, and he's very knowledgeable on this kind of stuff. So I ping him all the time and ask him specifics. And what he made clear from the start is, and now it's evolved a lot, is that, he was pretty much 60-40 on this deal going through. Whether or not there'll be concessions, we'll see. But I think what specifically on this topic, what we're beginning to see is that PlayStation, and it seems like maybe a few other companies, have really started to push back and go into the nitty gritty with any angle they can use to fight against this acquisition going through kind of unaltered. And I think Microsoft is at a place now where they're pushing back in any way that they can, as the CMA and, the EU and all these regulatory bodies start to kind of go in for their final reviews. So, I'm sure you guys are familiar. The FTC in the US has its own kind of things going on with it right now. There's dissent among their own leadership, and there's so many different angles to this deal. But I think this specifically is one. It's strange. I never would have thought. Nor am I even sure. I don't know, but I'm not sure if that would be even something that would be feasible. Obviously, it goes without saying, Microsoft has some of the best lawyers on the planet. They are very familiar with regulatory bodies and how to manage these things, and they've been confident from the start, even if it had to go to court, that this was going to go through. So obviously, they know something I don't, and many people don't. But it is absolutely kind of bizarre to think that the company that is trying to acquire another company is asking for performance reviews of a third party company that is really not involved in the deal, right? They're just kind of putting their thoughts on what the deal could impact from a gaming market wise. But I don't understand it, if I'm being quite frank. I don't know why that has an impact here. I'm sure someone who's works on these deals or knows more about law could tell me, but from the outside looking in, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless they're trying to prove, unless they're trying to say that, they're trying to find like a needle in a haystack of someone who's underperforming at an executive level and saying, well, what business do they have speaking on, this market? They clearly don't understand it or perform well, but that seems like way too big of a stretch. To have any impact on a deal like this. So I don't really know. That's the longest winded way in history to say I have no idea.
Right. I appreciate it though. I appreciate your insight,
I just, this is not something when you talk about like, if you look like the Bungie deal, for example, very different deal. They're not comparable in any way. But if you look around kind of the financials, right, like 60% of the money that PlayStation spent, the 3.8 billion or whatever it was really about taking care of the Bungie employees for years to come. It was personnel money, right? And deals are often broken out that way. And, you know, I have experience with that, with acquisitions, with my own company and how those things are kind of structured and why you do certain things. But this one is just taking on a life of its own. And I think it's almost become, because it's so much in the spotlight, especially for the communities we're involved in, right, with the gaming community. I think we're kind of seeing under the covers more than we typically would. And it's bizarre. It's really, really bizarre.
Definitely. BMG, what are your thoughts on this as far as Microsoft demanding this from PlayStation? I know it's kind of strange, but what do you think they're trying to get at with this?
I have even less knowledge than anyone on this because I've no idea. It's hard because it's just like, it just seems to be, it started going one way, then it goes another, then bounces back, looks good, looks bad. You know, let's just get Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer in like a mud bath and let us fight it out and winner takes all, you know. Let's do it that way. Or let's go down the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard route. Let's have it all on TV so we can all watch it. You know, that'd be so interesting. But yeah, it just the deal seems to look less and less likely. Like I say, with the FTC, God knows what's going on there now. She's been accused of, because she's resigned now, hasn't she? Lisa Khan. Yeah.
I don't know if Khan did. I know like one of their senior executives under her resigned either yesterday or very recently.
Yeah. But it's like she's been accused of like abusing her power and position and stuff like that. And like say, there's just things, no one's getting along. It's just hard to see where things are going to go. I think EU would pass it. I think they'll put their, Microsoft will offer them remedies because PlayStation don't want to hand over whatever the information it was they asked for. I can't read. I did have the page open the other day, but I don't. They were asking, Microsoft asked for subpoenaed them for whatever information it was they were looking for, which was obviously, I think, was giving them more insight into their business, and PlayStation kind of saying, no, don't want to give that, and trying to argue the toss over it. And obviously it doesn't look too good, but it's not PlayStation that's on trial here, so to speak. It's Microsoft and how this deal affects, whether I agree with some of the stuff or not. I'd like the deal to go through because then that would give me more on Game Pass. I don't think it would be bad for competition. I think it'll only help competition. I think it will be better for games overall. Get the all these like 1,000 studios off Call of Duty and get them working on individual games and other projects. But it's just hard. It just because clearly from like regulators, especially the CMA, they don't understand the gaming industry, and it's been pointed out to them repeatedly. I think everyone would have seen it. Microsoft did a step-by-step thing on the website on how it works for games and how it benefits gamers for like the CMA's sake, because they just don't get it. They just don't understand it. It's all Call of Duty. I think one of the remedies was diverse from the Call of Duty side of it or something like that. And I don't know. It's just too hard because it's just gone from they're going to buy them, put it to the regulators, people object, regulators make a decision, and that's it. But it just seems the water's got so muddy now. Everyone's slinging everything back and forth. I couldn't tell you which way it's going to go anymore. At one point, I was quite convinced it was going to go through, and then now I just think it's going to break apart. And I'm seeing a lot of people, saying, Microsoft's going to take that 68 billion, 69 billion and go and buy all these other studios. And it's like, well, no, not really. That money goes back into the company.
Yeah, it's not how that works.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It's not like a blank check. They can just be like, oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't buy these groceries, so let me go buy these. It's not like that.
And I think it's just that because a lot of people, and I see this all the time, everybody assumes that Microsoft approached Activision, but that wasn't the case. Activision actually approached them and said, hey, we want to be purchased, and here's our price. Now, I did hear before that Microsoft was not the first person, or not the first company, I should say, not the first company that they approached. So you have to wonder if they approached PlayStation first, but PlayStation simply couldn't afford whatever their asking price was.
Yeah, like 95 a share or something like that. I forget what the actual deal was, but it was a lot, and it's above kind of stock, overall market cap value of the company. And
you look at how much I think Sony as a company is worth is what, $200 billion, something in that ballpark. So I mean, for even if Activision had said, hey, $50 billion, that's a fourth of PlayStation's parent company's worth. There's no way they could touch that. I do think it's a good thing though for PlayStation gamers, especially, that Microsoft said no matter what, PlayStation gamers are still getting Call of Duty. They're still getting these big AAA IPs that are already out. You guys will get them regardless whenever this deal goes through. So I think that's good. I think for a lot of people, we're just ready for this ABK deal to be done with already. Yeah.
And by the way, it was Christine Wilson, who was the FTC commissioner, who resigned yesterday. And she basically lit up Lena Khan, who's, head of the FTC. So a lot of politics and, stuff going on with the FTC.
Yeah. But another downside with the deal not going through, which has already been confirmed, Bobby Kotick's still going to be in charge. And that's not good for anyone, really. He's already come out and said he'll still be the head of Activision Blizzard King if the deal doesn't go through, with an extra $3 billion in his pocket or in the company. So that's bad for starters, but I don't think PlayStation are doing themselves any favors, because obviously Bobby Kotick came out and said, PlayStation are trying to sabotage this deal, and he's publicly come out, made statements. So this is, if this deal doesn't go through, I think PlayStation, Sony have kind of hung themselves a bit, because I don't think you're going to see these marketing deals and that. I think they'll be Bobby Kotick obviously making the decisions. He's going to be that. He seems like the guy that holds a grudge, and a little bitter. It comes across that way. I think whether he loses some money or not, or he probably won't. He'll actually make more money by making a deal with Xbox. Right. Yeah. We're just going to make exclusive deals with you and put it in Game Pass, and give us stupid amounts of money. And you'll get it anyway, and do it that way. I think PlayStation have shot themselves in the foot with the way things are going, and it could end up backfiring them, because I think they've only got next year the deal's up. I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, 2024.
2024's title, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. So once that's it, marketing's up, deal's up. I don't think you're going to see it renewed. If the deal doesn't go through, obviously it won't if the deal goes through anyway, but I think that's kind of PlayStation's time with the exclusivity and the marketing done with Call of Duty anyway. And the fact that Uncle Jimmy won't pick up the phone to Uncle Phil or Auntie Bobby, he's just stood there not answering it. No. It's just crazy. It's just such a bizarre situation, and I just want it to be done now. Let's just get loads of game announcements. Let's just get some cool events going on that we can all talk about games, and be done with this. Let's get it over with. I think, is it June? Is June the actual date is set for it to be done?
There's multiple dates depending on if it's the the EU CMA and the FTC. So there's a whole timeline of different dates, but I don't know what the definitive kind of expectation is.
I'm sure we're going to keep getting news on this until then, pretty much every single day, or at least once a week. We'll keep getting stuff on the ABK deal, and it's like, all right, let's just get it over with.
Yeah, we need to get Luke Steele on speed dial, because he's acquisitions, mergers, lawyer dealt with like this DMA before, and he was on Boom Show the other day, and apparently a load of stuff come up that he had to put correct and things like that. But he's the guy that we all generally turn to ask from like the UK side of stuff. I know like Hogue, he's obviously all on the American side, and I'm glad he's doing well as well. I seen his post earlier, walking unassisted, and that's awesome, and his recovery is just absolutely brilliant, and it's to see.
It is, yeah. We obviously, our core group, we talk every day, so he's been talking with us, and he's surprised everyone about how well he's doing. So it's been very fortunate.
Definitely great to see. I know how my late father-in-law had a number of strokes, and it hits you hard, and it's hard to come back from those. Yeah, so it's great to see that he's doing well.
Yeah, out of nowhere. So very positive. So hopefully he'll be back doing stuff in the near future.
Nice.
Hopefully. Can't wait.
I do want to thank everyone who did stop by in the chat. Thimber, UK Dazarus, Timmy stops by every single time. We greatly appreciate it. Muppet, of course. Thanks for everyone that has been with us live, and for everyone who's going to listen to this afterwards. Thank you so very much. We greatly appreciate it. If you do enjoy this podcast, obviously, be sure to hit that like button, share it with someone else who may enjoy it. And if you're not already subscribed to the XBN Network, definitely subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we upload new content. Ains, tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you, and tell them about your podcast and when it is.
Sure, yeah, guys. So thank you for having me on. It's been a blast. Always enjoy just hanging out and chatting games, man. It's always a good time. So thank you again. For me, you can really find everything on Seasoned Gaming. So seasonedgaming.com is obviously our main site. You can find everything there, including links to all of our reviews, articles, news, a weekly live show. So our weekly live show, the Big Cast, is live every Sunday at 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern time. So whatever that is for you. And that's me, Dan Rodriguez, Travis Northup from IGN, and typically Hogue, obviously. So we've been kind of hanging out with Adam for the past couple months, but hopefully we have our fingers crossed that he'll be back with us eventually. And other than that, man, it's just we've got an amazing year of games coming up, and so we've got a lot of coverage planned. We've got a really nice staff over at Seasoned Gaming. Just really good people, genuine work. We don't do anything for money. Nothing's monetized. So it's all about just passion for the games, all platforms. And with PSVR 2 coming next week and all these kind of big game releases over the next few months, it's going to be a lot of good stuff. So nice. Just stop by, and appreciate you guys again for having me on.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be our guest. You've been a great guest, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, BMG, why don't you tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you at?
Literally just find me on Twitter at BaldManGamer. You probably will notice StreamYard have added some new things, so all our Twitter handles are just below our names. You can find me on PlayStation at BaldManGamer86 or Xbox at BaldManGamer. Other than that, you can find me here over the XBN network. I'm on with the PSN Party Podcast with my co-host Sentinel every Wednesday, and normally XBL on a Thursday at 8 p.m. GMT, but we haven't got a show tomorrow. A lot of the lads aren't feeling so good, so instead of us trying to just wing it with me and Sentinel, we thought, right, we'll just I'll have a week off, let the lads rest up. They're all getting old and they need to take the vitamins and say the prayers. And,
is that aimed at me?
No, not at you. I'm feeling old myself. I'm going for a nap after this anyway. just the rest. But no, just pretty much you can find me here. We are updating the site, because I think it's still xblpartypodcast.co.uk thing, or .com, sorry. Things are updating. We are changing over to the new name because we do include all content now. Check out our website, check out Twitter, XBN Network, where we've got reviews going up, news articles and things like that. Our leader, Ash, who controls everything, Mr. PR, he deals with everything and keeps us all in line. But yeah, other than that, that's where you'll find me.
Outstanding. Obviously, SSGSentienl on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter and Twitch. It's the same spelling as you can see on your screen. SSGSentienl. Definitely check me out there. I usually live stream every single night. And I'm trying to upload YouTube videos regularly. But I also have YouTube videos that I'm doing for the XPN networks. You can check them out on our channel. And of course, on Twitter, I pretty much am active every single day. I'm sure I'm close to exceeding my daily Twitter limit, so we'll see if I ever hit that. I think it's 2,400, but I'm pretty close some days. So just check me out. Ignore some, if I'm tweeting too much, just ignore, say not interested in this tweet or whatever. But anyways, that's where you guys can find me. Thank you again for checking out the PSN Party Podcast for this week. We greatly appreciate it. Obviously, we won't be on XBL tomorrow, but we will be on there next week. And, of course, you can check us on PSN Party Podcast next week. This is SSG Sergeant Sentinel. Thank you so much for checking us out. We will see you guys later.
Take care, guys.